topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Draw me close to you, never let me go. I lay it all down again to hear you say that I'm your friend.
Good day. The Almighty Creator desires a deep personal relationship with you. My name is James Robertson. I'm a researcher, publisher, and teacher regarding the matters and truths of the Almighty Creator, whose true name is Yah, the eternally self-existing. I've been actively serving him since 1993, over 31 years. If you're not actively serving Yah, then by default, you are serving Satan. My objective is to show you how you can make a big difference on earth and qualify for a position of high esteem in heaven for eternity. It's important to understand that as a believer, just being good is not the point. It's relationship with Yah that counts. Without this, you'll be in a very unpleasant place in heaven with no way out. My aim is to show you how to get close to Father. If you're a good person without a clear relationship with Yah, then you're in a spiritual no man's land and you will not enter heaven when you die. The Creator has said regarding unbelievers, why would I want someone to spend eternity with me when they do not believe I exist? Yah is calling everybody on the planet. Yah is calling everybody on the planet to be involved and serve him and help him to have victory over Satan. My goal is to show you how to do this. Fundamentally, we each need to learn to see things on earth from Yah's perspective. My aim is to teach you how to do this. Please visit my website, www.endtimeissueministries.org. That's www.endtimeissueministries.org, or email me on James, James, at endtimeissueministries.org. Today we're going to look at the testimony of Pontius Pilate regarding Yeshua, and we're going to look at part 1. The overview. This is the letter of Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor who presided over the sentencing and death of Yahooshua, incorrectly called Jesus, to the Roman Emperor Julius Ceaser about the life, death, and resurrection of Yeshua. This is vitally important, independent testimony about the reality of Yeshua. This letter is drawn from a book, Archaeological Writings of the Sanhedrin and the Talmud of the Jews, which is available in physical form. If you wanted to get hold of it, give me a shout, drop me an email. The Hillel letters, Herod Antipas's defense, Pilate's report, which we're going to read now, Caiaphas on the resurrection, report of Caiaphas, Gamaliel's interview, Jonathan's interview, sketch of the Talmuds, a whole lot of interesting information about Yeshua and the time of Yeshua. So if you're interested in these things, and I've awakened your interest after this broadcast, you might like to get hold of that. I suspect if you search in Google, you'll find it. The Archaeological Writings of the Sanhedrin and Talmud of the Jews by James McIntosh. We'll read Pilate's report to Caesar, and I will share my observations, and then finally we will look at the state of your relationship with the Almighty Creator. So this is based on the article 2024-0403, transcript of Acta Pilata, letter of Pontius Pilate to Julius Ceaser about Yeshua, incorrectly Jesus, his execution, incorrectly crucifixion, and resurrection, and this is part 1. I wrote at the time, a few weeks ago, I published the YouTube video of the letter of Pontius Pilate, the governor of Judea at the time of Yahooshua, to Julius Ceaser, the Emperor of Rome, about Yahooshua Jesus, his execution, crucifixion, and resurrection. I've had the video transcribed, and that is presented here. I've added emphasis and footnotes to key passages. In summary, Pontius Pilate, the governor of Judea, who authorized the execution of Yahooshua, writes to Julius Caesar, the Emperor of Rome, about the life, death, and resurrection of Yahooshua. This is a powerful confirmation of the truth of the books of the good news, the Gospels in the Bible. So I'm going to do something that I don't usually do on these broadcasts, and that is to read somebody else's writing. However, I felt that this was such an important document that it was worth sharing it on this channel and amplifying what it says. So, as I say, it comes from the the book, The Archaeological Writings of the Sanhedrin and Talmud of the Jews. These are the official documents made in the courts in the days of Yahooshua, the anointed of Yah, Jesus Christ, translated by Doctors Mackintosh and Twyman of the Antiquarian Lodge, Genoa, Italy, from manuscripts in Constantinople and the records of the senatorial docket taken from the Vatican at Rome, published by Philadelphia Antiquarian Book Company, copyright 1913 by W.F. Randall. So out of these several chapters, I will read the one pertaining to Pilate's report to Caesar of the arrest, trial, and execution of Yahooshua, which is known as Acta Pilati. Chapter 8, Valius notes, Acta Pilati, or Pilate's report to Caesar of the arrest, trial, and crucifixion of Yahooshua. There's more context and background on the article on the web page of the same name. So here is Pilate's report. To Tiberius Caesar, and this is all a quote, to Tiberius Caesar, Emperor of Rome, noble sovereign, greetings. The events of the last few days in my province have been of such a character that I will give the details in full as they occurred, as I should not be surprised if, in the course of time, they may change the destiny of our nation, for it seems of late that all the gods have ceased to be propitious. I'm almost ready to say, cursed be the day that I succeeded Valerius Flacius in the government of Judea, for since then my life has been one of continual uneasiness and distress. Now, the reason that I think that this whole letter is important is twofold. Firstly, it gives us an insight into Yahooshua that goes beyond the four so-called Gospels, the four books of good news in the Bible. Secondly, it gives us a perspective on the Roman governor, Pilate, and Roman government, which is distinctly different to the picture that I've always conjured up from reading the Bible. And I'm going to seek to make both of those points visible as I see them and as I've understood them as I've read this document and listened to. First of all, I listened to it, and then I had it transcribed and I read it, and it's a very unusual insight into a moment in time that is of extreme importance to humanity. So Pilate continues, on my arrival at Jerusalem, I took possession of the praetorium and ordered a splendid feast to be prepared, to which I invited the Tetrarch of Galilee with the high priest and his officers. At the appointed hour, no guests appeared. This is, I considered, an insult offered to my dignity and to the whole government which I represent. A few days later, the high priest deigned to pay me a visit. His deportment was grave and deceitful. He pretended that his religion forbade him and his attendants to sit at the table of the Romans and eat and offer libations with them. But this was only a sanctimonious seeming, for his countenance betrayed his hypocrisy. Now, that's an interesting one, because I think that speaks to a misunderstanding. It's correct that Jewish Hebrew doctrine, the so-called Torah, indeed would have forbidden the high priest to sit at table with a Roman governor who was not a believer. And maybe this sanctimonious expression was actually one of unease and perhaps a little bit of fear. So we see a situation in which the high priests initiate their relationship with Pilate in a negative way. And I think it is so that a lot of time believers portray themselves incorrectly for this sort of reason, that get uncomfortable and they come across in a deceitful manner. So if you're dealing with unbelievers, you might want to think about that. Pilate continues, although I thought it expedient to accept his excuse, from that moment I was convinced that the conquered had declared themselves the enemy of the conquerors, and I would warn the Romans to beware of the high priests of this country. They would betray their own mother to gain office and luxurious living. It seems to me that of conquered cities, Jerusalem is the most difficult to govern. So turbulent are the people that I live in momentary dread of an insurrection. I have not soldiers sufficient to suppress it. I had only 1 centurion and 100 men at my command. I requested a reinforcement from the prefect of Syria, who informed me that he had scarcely troops sufficient to defend his own province. An insatiate thirst for conquest to extend our empire beyond the means of defending it, I fear, will be the cause of the final throw of our whole government. I lived secluded from the masses, for I did not know what those priests might influence the rabble to do. Yet I endeavored to ascertain as far as I could the mind and standing of the people. So the disconnect continues. The Jews hated and feared the Romans, and the Romans feared and in at least some way hated the Jews. And that's something that happens, as I said a few minutes ago, about the way a lot of believers interact with unbelievers. On the face of this letter, Pilate was quite a decent, honest, just individual. Yet we get a picture of him out of the Bible that implies that he was quite a difficult guy. The other thing to notice is there was only 1 centurion, and yet a centurion came to Yahooshua asking him to heal his servant. So there was only 1 centurion at the time. Interesting. Pilate continues. Among the various rumors that came to my ears, there was one in particular that attracted my attention. A young man, it was said, had appeared in Galilee, preaching with a noble unction a new law in the name of the God or the Mighty One that had sent him. At first I was apprehensive that his design was to stir up the people against the Romans, but my fears were soon dispelled. Yahooshua, incorrectly Jesus of Nazareth. So there's a point here, the translation that I worked from says Jesus, but that's a classic example of doctrinally biased translation. So I've just replaced the wrong names here. Yahooshua of Nazareth spoke rather as friend of the Romans than of the Jews. One day, in passing by the place of Siloam, where there was a great concourse of people, I observed in the midst of the group a young man who was leaning against a tree, calmly addressing the multitude. I was told it was Yahooshua. This I could easily have suspected, so great was the difference between him and those listening to him. His golden-colored hair and beard gave to his appearance a celestial aspect. He appeared to be about 30 years of age. Never have I seen a sweeter or more serene countenance. What a contrast between him and his hearers with their black beards and tawny complexions. Folks, this is really, 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 really important. His golden-colored hair and beard gave to his appearance a celestial aspect. Never have I seen a sweeter or more serene countenance. Yeshua stood out. Yeshua was clearly different. Can you have any doubt after listening to that Yeshua was indeed sent by Yah? And yet the people he was sent to, certainly the rulers, the high priests, etc., totally missed it. Even the Roman governor recognized him, and yet the high priests and the Pharisees rejected him. Pilate continues, unwilling to interrupt him by my presence, I continued my walk, but signified to my secretary to join the group and listen. My secretary's name is Manlius. He is the grandson of the chief of the conspirators who encamped in Etruria, waiting for Catiline. Manlius had been for a long time an inhabitant of Judea and is well acquainted with the Hebrew language. He was devoted to me and worthy of my confidence. On entering the praetorium, I found Manlius, who related to me the words Yeshua had spoken at Silo. Never have I read in the works of the philosophers anything that can compare to the maxims of Yeshua. One of the rebellious Jews, so numerous in Jerusalem, having asked Yeshua if it was lawful to give tribute to Caesar, he replied, render unto Caesar the things that belong to Caesar, and unto Yah the things that are Yah's. Now, that reinforces the fact that never have I read the works of the philosophers anything that compared to the maxims of Yeshua. Yeshua stood out. He was remarkable. This Roman governor got it. The religious people missed it. One of the things that Pilate, I think, misinterprets, Yeshua is telling people to be peaceful. Pilate interprets that as being in favor of the Romans, but it was not spoken in favor of the Romans. It was spoken as a deep fundamental principle that if you love Yah, you will keep his commandments and you will not make his name obnoxious amongst the unbelievers. You will keep peace. Pilate continues, it was on account of the wisdom of his sayings that I granted so much liberty to the Nazarene. For it was in my power to have had him arrested and exiled to Pontus, but that would have been contrary to the justice which has always characterized the Roman government in all its dealings with men. This man was neither seditious nor rebellious. I extended to him my protection, unknown perhaps to himself. He was at liberty to act, to speak, to assemble and address the people, and to choose disciples unrestrained by any praetorian mandate. Should it ever happen, may the gods avert the omen. Should it ever happen, I say, that the religion of our forefathers will be supplanted by the religion of Yeshua, it will be to this noble toleration that Rome shall owe her premature death, while I, miserable wretch, will have been the instrument of what the Jews call providence and we call destiny. So again, we see this unbelieving Roman governor heavily impressed by Yeshua and giving Yeshua liberty. Folks, I want you to get this. If you are really serving Yah, you will submit to the authorities in your country. That's a verse in the Bible. You won't be in contention and rebellion against them. You will live a right life because that's the way you should live life. And you will show respect, and they will respect you. I walk in that space. I work with people who are not necessarily all believers. I treat them with respect. They treat me with respect. I come across believers who don't do that, and then they wonder why they're not treated with respect. Pilate continues. This unlimited freedom granted to Yeshua provoked the Jews, not the poor, but the rich and powerful. It is true, Yeshua was severe on the latter, and this was a political reason, in my opinion, for not restraining the liberty of the Nazarene. Scribes and Pharisees, he would say to them, you're a race of vipers, you resemble painted sepulchres. You appear well unto man, but you have death within you. At other times he would sneer at the alms of the rich and proud, telling that the mite of the poor was more precious in the sight of Yah. Complaints were daily made at the praetorium against the insolence of Yeshua. Now there's an important point to get here. Yeshua was addressing the scribes, the Pharisees, the high priests in their sin and their error and their rebellion against Yah, their hardness of heart. So you might wonder how this fits with what I said a minute ago. I'm telling you to deal honorably and respectfully with unbelievers, and yet I'm saying here Yeshua was harsh on believers in error. Yah does not expect believers to be tolerant of believers who behave in unacceptable ways and bring Yah into disrepute. At the same time, he doesn't do that with insults and anger and what have you, but Yeshua was pretty blunt. And there's an important point to get here, folks. Yeshua came with the express objective of dying at Golgotha, the way he died on a stake, with terrible torture, with his blood flowing down the earthquake crack onto the lid of the mercy seat on the Ark of the Covenant in the cave below. See my article, The Miracle of the Death of Yeshua, for more information. Pilate continues. I was even informed that some misfortune would befall him, that it would not be the first time that Jerusalem had stoned those who called themselves prophets. An appeal would be made to Caesar. However, my conduct was approved by the Senate, and I was promised a reinforcement after the termination of the Parthian War. Being too weak to suppress an insurrection, I resolved upon adopting a measure that promised to restore the tranquility of the city without subjecting the praetorium to humiliating concession. I wrote to Yeshua requesting an interview with him at the praetorium. He came. You know that in my veins flow the Spanish mixed with Roman blood, as incapable of fear as it is of weak emotion. When the Nazarene made his appearance, I was walking in my basilic, and my feet seemed fastened with an iron hand to the marble pavement, and I trembled in every limb as does a guilty culprit, though the Nazarene was as calm as innocence itself. When he came up to me, he stopped, and by a signal sign he seemed to say to me, I am here, though he spoke not a word. Notice again this unbelieving ruler recognizing how exceptional Yeshua was, implicitly understanding the anointing and the power of the Spirit of Yah upon Yeshua. And then contrast that with the behavior of the believers. One of the things that I regularly encounter is believers who come against me and come against my message and get insulting when they're in gross error. Pilate continues. For some time, I contemplated with admiration and awe this extraordinary type of man, a type of man unknown to our numerous painters who have given form and figure to all the gods and the heroes. There was nothing about him that was repelling in its character, yet I felt too awed and tremulous to approach him. Yeshua I said unto him at last, and my tongue faltered, Yahshua of Nazareth, for the last 3 years I've granted you ample freedom of speech, nor do I regret it. Your words are those of a sage. I know not whether you have read Socrates or Plato, but this I know. There is in your discourse a majestic simplicity that elevates you far above those philosophers. The emperor is informed of it, and I, and his humble representative in this country, am glad to having allowed you that liberty of which you are so worthy. However, I must not conceal from you that your discourses have raised up against you powerful and inveterate enemies. Nor is this surprising. Socrates had his enemies, and he fell victim to their hatred. Yours are doubly incensed against you on account of your discourses being so severe upon their conduct, against me on account of the liberty I've afforded you. They even accuse me of being indirectly leagued with you for the purpose of depriving the Hebrews of the little power which Rome has left them. My request, I do not say my order, is that you be more circumspect and moderate in your discourses in the future, and more considerate of them, lest you arouse the pride of your enemies, and they raise against you the stupid populace and compel me to employ the instruments of law. So here we see Pilate, well before Yeshua's execution, taking Yeshua's side, not because of some malintent, but just out of a respect for the quality and the importance and the value of Yeshua's message. Pilate continues. The Nazarene calmly replied, Prince of the earth, your words proceed not from true wisdom. Say to the torrent to stop in the midst of the mountain gorge. It will uproot the trees of the valley. The torrent will answer you that it obeys the laws of nature and the Creator. Yah alone knows whither the flow the waters of the torrent. Verily I say unto you, before the rose of Sharon blossoms, the blood of the just shall be spilt. Pilate continues. Your blood shall not be spilt, said I with deep emotion. You are more precious in my estimation on account of your wisdom than all the turbulent and proud Pharisees who abuse the freedom granted them by the Romans. They conspire against Caesar and convert his bounty into fear, impressing the unlearned that Caesar is a tyrant and seeks their ruin. Insolent wretches! They are not aware that the wolf of the Tiber sometimes clothes himself with the skin of the sheep to accomplish his wicked designs. I will protect you against them. My praetorium shall be an asylum, sacred both day and night. I find this remarkable because it's so different to the picture that I had up until hearing this message. Pilate continues. Yeshua carelessly shook his head and said with a grave and divine smile, When the day shall have come, there will be no asylums for the Son of Man, neither in the earth nor under the earth. The asylum of the just is there, pointing to the heavens. That which is written in the books of the prophets must be accomplished. Young man, I answered mildly, you will oblige me to convert my request into an order. The safety of the province which has been confided to my care requires it. You must observe more moderation in your discourses. Do not infringe my order. You know the consequences. May happiness attend you. Farewell. I'm moved by this account of how different Yeshua was, how the anointing of the Spirit of Yah upon Yeshua made him different. And that anointing is available to you and me if you choose to seek it. Prince of the earth, replied Yeshua, I come not to bring war into the world, but peace, love, and charity. I was born the same day on which Augustus Caesar gave peace to the Roman world. Persecutions proceed not from me. I expect it from others, and I will meet it in obedience to the will of my Father, who has shown me the way. Restrain therefore your worldly prudence. It is not in your power to rest the victim at the foot of the tabernacle of expiation. So saying, he disappeared like a bright shadow behind the curtains of the basilic, to my great relief, for I felt a heavy burden on me, of which I could not relieve myself while in his presence. A couple of points here. Yeshua was committed to his calling. He knew where he was going to die, he knew when he was going to die, and he knew how he was going to die. He did not turn to the left or the right. He single-mindedly walked towards his execution, knowing that living without sin and dying without sin would earn him the highest throne in heaven for eternity, and massive prestige, massive authority, and massive supernatural powers. Pilate continues. To Herod, who then reigned in Galilee, the enemies of Yeshua addressed themselves to wreak their vengeance on the Nazarene. Had Herod consulted his own inclinations, he would have ordered Yeshua immediately to be put to death. But though proud of his royal dignity, he hesitated to commit an act that might lessen his influence with the Senate, or like me, was afraid of Yeshua. But it would never do for a Roman officer to be scared by a Jew. Previously to this, Herod called on me at the Praetorium, and on rising to take leave after some trifling conversation, asked me what was my opinion concerning the Nazarene. I replied that Yeshua appeared to me to be one of those great philosophers that great nations sometimes produced, that his doctrines were by no means sacrilegious, and that the intentions of Rome were to leave him to that freedom of speech which was justified by his actions. Herod smiled maliciously, and saluting me with ironical respect, departed. Again, we see the justice of the Roman government. The contrast is striking, folks. And one of the things I would ask you to draw from this, I so frequently encounter believers who are in rebellion against government, who are in rebellion against Yah. And this is understandable if you follow my teachings. The demonic realm is highly involved in believers. Pilate continues. The great feast of the Jews, Passover, was approaching, and the intention was to avail themselves of the popular exaltation which always manifests itself at the solemnities of a Passover. The city was overflowing with a tumultuous populace clamoring for the death of the Nazarene. My emissaries informed me that the treasurer of the temple had been employed in bribing the people. The danger was pressing. A Roman centurion had been insulted. I wrote to the prefect of Syria for 100 foot soldiers and as many cavalry. He declined. I saw myself alone with a handful of veterans in the midst of a rebellious city, too weak to suppress an uprising and having no choice left but to tolerate it. They had seized upon Yeshua and the seditious rabble, although they had nothing to fear from the Praetorium, believing as their leaders had told them that I winked at their sedition, continued vociferously, execute him, execute him. I have said to a number of people over the last few years, believers, nominally quite strong believers, if Yeshua were to return today, you would be amongst those calling for his death. And I sincerely mean that. There are many believers who are way off the mark. And you might want to check out what you believe and what you're doing. Pilate continues. 3 powerful parties had combined together at that time against Yeshua. First, the Herodians and the Sadducees, whose seditious conduct seemed to have proceeded from double motives. They hated the Nazarene and were impatient of the Roman yoke. They never forgave me for having entered the holy city with banners that bore the image of the Roman Emperor. And although in this instance I had committed a fatal error, yet the sacrilege did not appear less heinous in their eyes. Another grievance also rankled in their bosoms. I had proposed to employ a part of the treasure of the temple in erecting edifices for public use. My proposal was scorned. The Pharisees were the avowed enemies of Yeshua. They cared not for the government. They bore with bitterness the severe reprimands which the Nazarene for 3 years had been continually giving them, wherever he went. Timid and too weak to act by themselves, they had embraced the quarrels of the Herodians and the Sadducees. Besides these 3 parties, I had to contend against the reckless and profligate populace, always ready to join a sedition and to profit by the disorder and confusion that resulted therefrom. It's not a pretty picture. Here we see a man who is clearly divinely anointed, with great wisdom, great stature, great grace, and yet they want to kill him. Why? Because their demons feared him. Pilate continues. Yeshua was dragged before the high priest and condemned to death. It was then that the high priest Caiaphas performed a divisory act of submission. He sent his prisoner to me to confirm his condemnation and secure his execution. I answered him that as Yeshua was a Galilean, the affair came under Herod's jurisdiction, and ordered him to be sent thither. The wily tetrarch professed humility, and protesting his deference to the lieutenant of Caesar, he committed the fate of the man to my hands. Soon my palace assumed the aspect of a besieged citadel. Every moment increased the number of the malcontents. Jerusalem was inundated with crowds from the mountains of Nazareth. All Judea appeared to be pouring into the city. It's important to understand just how powerfully the satanic and demonic realm operating through the religious leaders of the time came against Yah's anointed. Some of the worst wars in the world have involved believers. Adolf Hitler was a committed Catholic, just as an example, a believer. What's happening in Gaza is one group of believers against another. Folks, if you're a believer, I encourage you to examine yourself. Pilate continues. I had taken a wife from among the Gauls who pretended to see into futurity. Weeping and throwing herself at my feet, she said to me, Beware, beware, and touch not that man, for he is set apart, he is holy. Last night I saw him in a vision. He was walking on the waters. He was flying on the wings of the wind. He spoke to the tempest and to the fishes of the lake. All were obedient to him. Behold, the torrent in Mount Kedron flows with blood. The statues of Caesar are filled with geminide. The columns of the interium have given way, and the sun is veiled in mourning like a vestal in the tomb. Ah, Pilate, evil awaits thee if thou wilt not listen to the vows of thy wife. Dread the curse of a Roman Senate. Dread the frowns of Caesar. So here we see an unbelieving woman who has a vision from Yah and speaks truth. And we're out of time today, folks. I'll continue this next week. But what I want you to see is as we move towards the death of Yeshua, the extent to which he was obedient to the authority of the land and the extent to which the believers around him were in gross error. It's staggering. So to wrap up, I'd like to ask you, what is the state of your relationship with the Almighty Creator? I'd like to ask you to critically examine where you are relative to him. Do you talk to him constantly throughout the day and allow him to lead you in every possible way, like Yeshua? Are you conscious of him at all times? Do you worship him at every opportunity? Do you count him your friend? Have you clearly and unambiguously heard him call you friend? If not, you're failing in your life purpose, and you will be bitterly disappointed when you die. I can't stress this enough, folks. There is only one reason for this entire universe, solar system, planet Earth, the plants, the animals, and you and I. And that is to be friends of the Almighty Creator. He was lonely, and he went to all that trouble to create us to be his friends. So if you're not his friend, you've missed the boat, my friend. He's there for you. If you will call out to him, Father Yah, I come to you. I now know that you want me to be your friend. I desire to be your friend. Take me by the hand and lead me. And he will take you by the hand and he will meet you wherever you are, even if you're the worst Satanist on the planet. He will cleanse you. He will make you right. I will help you if you email me and ask for help. In closing, thank you for listening. Please send me your questions to james@endtimeissueministries.org. Please email me to join the mailing list, also at james@endtimeissueministries.org. I put out articles every week. If you decide to draw close to the Almighty, please let me know, and I will connect with you by Skype, Zoom, Teams, email, or telephone so that I can help you with your journey. I hope to connect with you again next week, when I will continue to explore how to become a friend of the Creator. Work with me to make a way for Yeshua to return in victory at the end of the millennium and make his enemies his footstool. I said a minute ago, Yah wants you to become his friend. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, tall or short, thin or fat, educated or uneducated, black or white, or whatever, black hair, brown eyes, blue eyes, blonde hair, African, Asian, European, Caucasian, Indian, Satanist, witch, warlock, Catholic, Buddhist, Confucianist, Hebrew, Jew, Muslim, Christian. It doesn't matter. He wants you to be his friend. As I said a minute ago, he will meet you wherever you are. Take you by the hand. There's things to do. There's a page on the website, 7 components of drawing close to Yah. Get that, do it, apply it. It is a journey. The reward is huge. So it's going to take a bit of effort on your side. Give me a call. Email me. If you've been following me for a while, you might like to sign off now. If not, if this is your first or second time, please stay on. I've got something that I want to share with you. So I'm going to say good night to those who are leaving. In closing, who am I? James Robertson. I have a doctorate in engineering and I'm a retired military commander. I now work as a management consultant and project manager. I have over 31 years' experience of actively seeking to draw close to the Almighty, following a dramatic encounter with him on the 12th of March 1993, when he spoke to me audibly in a locked room, and I knew for certain that he was real. In learning about Father, I applied my deep-seated aversion to failure, born out of an accident in early childhood, coupled to my engineering and military training of rigor and preventing failure, to my seeking of knowledge about Father. This journey led to numerous supernatural experiences, prayers answered, and clear communication with the Creator that forms the basis for what I teach in these programs. See the video, Why Seek Relationship, for an overview of what I believe. Please visit my website at www.endtimeissueministries.org. The ETI version of the Bible with correction of key translation errors is on the ETI Bible version page near the top of the website. Recordings of nearly all the teachings broadcast so far on Google. Look on them for Google, search on Google for quote Relationship with Creator Radio unquote. There are also transcripts on the transcripts of broadcasts page. Books with teachings from 1998 till May 2019 are on the books for printing page, that PDFs formatted. I publish regular email articles. Email me on james@endtimeissueministries.org to be added to the mailing list or to seek counsel or prayer or give me feedback. Visit the website and use the Google search, article keyword cloud, table of contents, and article search to locate the information you're looking for all along the top of the website. So I'm going to say good night. I'll be continuing with this message next Friday, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much. Good night.
Father, I come to you, lifting up my hands. By your grace I stand, just because you love me. I know your favor.
Hi, I'm James Robertson. I want to share with you the letter of Pontius Pilate, the governor of Judea at the time of Yahooshua, to Julius Ceaser, the Emperor of Rome. I draw some important learnings from this article to share with you, whether you're a believer or an unbeliever. And I conclude that if you're not actively seeking a high throne for eternity, you are missing the point of your existence. Please listen to my broadcast on w4cy.com radio or talk4tv.com internet TV. Visit my website at www.endtimeissueministries.org or email me on james@endtimeissueministries.org to find out more. I look forward to hearing from you.